Hey there, TaxBots. I'm Justin Spicer from the Legal Aid of Southeast and Central Ohio, and I'm joined today by Kathy Hoover and Luke Mina, attorneys from our Low Income Taxpayer Clinic. Today, we're going to be talking about how to report your income and expenses if you're self-employed. So feel free to leave a comment or a question below, and we'll answer what we can. So, Kathy, to get us started today, can you explain to our viewers what is different when you are employed versus self-employed?
Of course, when you're employed, your employer will withhold federal tax from your paycheck and pay that money to the US government. At the end of the year, you will get a W-2 from your employer that reports how much income you earned as well as how much tax you paid. If you had enough tax withheld for the year, you probably won't owe any additional money and you may instead receive a refund from the IRS. If you did not withhold enough, you could owe additional money. On the other hand, when you are self employed, it is your responsibility to pay the tax you owe on your income when you file your tax return. In some instances, you may need to pay what we call estimated taxes throughout the year, but that is subject for a different day. How much tax you owe depends on several factors, including how much you earned and how much you spent to run the business.
So let's say I fall into the employed category instead of self-employed. Would I report my income the same way as if I were self-employed?
No. So, like Kathy mentioned earlier, if you're employed, you'll get a W-2 at the end of the year. If you report your W-2, or you report your W-2 income on line one of your Form 1040. If you are self-employed, you will report your income and expenses on what is called a Schedule C. After you figure out your net profit or net loss from your business, you report the profit or loss on line 18 of your Form 1040.
Kathy, what information does a taxpayer need to fill out the Schedule C?
The taxpayer will need all documents that report their income for the year. This can include things like bank statements, register receipts, 1099s, etc. The taxpayer also needs all documents that report their expenses, meaning the amount of money that you spent to run the business. Expenses can include things like rent, equipment, mileage, and so on.
So Luke, as we can see here on the screen, the Schedule C has 5 parts for reporting income and expenses. Does the taxpayer need to complete each section?
Maybe, and it depends on the taxpayer's type of business. So all taxpayers will fill out the first part, which reports the name of the business as well as the business address. In this case, we use TaxBots Unlimited, as we're always providing tax presentations for you. After you report the first part of your business information, on part one is where you report how much income your business made. So most businesses are usually done on cash businesses, and so that first line will be how much cash your business received. If you had any cost of goods sold, for example, if you run like a merchandise shop and you may sell things, you'll also need to capture how much you spent on the cost of goods that you sold. Once you get those pieces plugged in, you'll figure out what they call as your gross profit, which is usually also your gross income for your business, which we have reported on line 7. The second part of your Schedule C that most people will complete is your expenses. So as we can see here, TaxBot professionals did have some expenses to provide our tax presentations, and they are laid out in part 2 of the Schedule C. After you complete all your expenses, you'll see on line 28 is where you add up how many expenses you had. Once you do that, you subtract your expenses from your profit, and that is your tentative profit or loss. Part three part four, you would include with part two because this extrapolates out your car and truck expenses, which is reported on line 9. On part three, that is the cost of goods sold. Like I was mentioning earlier, if you have like a business to where you sell things and you need to buy supplies in order to sell those, you would fill out the cost of goods to figure out how much money that cost you for the year. The last part is part 5, and that's your other expenses. If there's expenses that are not specifically enumerated in part 2, you can put those other expenses on line 27A, and that part 5 will just list those expenses that you would have.
So, Kathy, if a taxpayer earns money delivering food with services like Uber Eats or DoorDash, do they need to complete that Schedule C?
Yes, so app-based delivery services like DoorDash, Uber, Grubhub, etc., will send the taxpayer a Form 1099 NEC. The taxpayer will report this information on a Schedule C. They will also need to include all the business-related expenses as well as such as mileage.
So, Luke, if people have more questions, what resources are available?
So there's several resources that are available. One, you can go to irs.gov/pub 334 to access publication 334, which is a tax guide for small businesses. You can also visit irs.gov/pub 463 for publication 463, which focuses on travel, gift, and car expenses. And you can also look at publication 535 by going to irs.gov/pub 535, which explains business expenses. And Justin will drop those links in the comments.
Yeah, happy to do that. So that's great. Thank you, Kathy and Luke, as always, for the awesome information. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. And as a reminder, this segment and all the others in our Tax Chat series are available on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.